Governor Miranda starts suspecting Fabio, Paloma, and Antonio of being involved in Yolanda's murder, as they were the ones on duty that night. Fabio tries to defend them, but he himself has his own doubt. The guards and some inmates prepare a memorial for Yolanda. When the guards get called away, the inmates take advantage of the moment to sneak some communion wafers and wine. Suddenly, Soledad collapses after just one sip and is rushed to the infirmary. Sandoval quickly revives her and stabilizes her condition. Soon, Soledad regains consciousness. She has a serious heart condition and needs a transplant, but she doesn't believe anyone would donate a heart to a criminal like her. At Yolanda's memorial, Saray sits next to Maka and threatens her not to go out with Rizos. Saray, Rizzo's ex-girlfriend, is still in love with her. Meanwhile, Maka's urine test confirms she is pregnant. Sandoval still thinks the result belongs to Tyr and shows it to Miranda. Fabio suspects that Paloma helped Yolanda's killer and confronts her. She admits it, explaining that Zulema's people threatened her by breaking into her house and endangering her newborn twins. That night, Fabio invites Antonio over for dinner, where Antonio meets Fabio's wife, Carolina, a blind woman. The dinner goes smoothly until Antonio accidentally mentions the murder at the prison, something Fabio had kept from his wife. Carolina becomes emotional and reveals why Fabio, once a homicide detective and Castillo's colleague, quit his job to become a prison guard. One time their house was broken into by thieves. Carolina was attacked but only suffered minor injuries. However, Fabio was deeply affected and used his police resources to track down the criminals, despite Carolina's objections. After the arrests, the gang retaliated, breaking into their home again and brutally beating Carolina. The attack damaged her optic nerve, causing permanent blindness. After that, Fabio swore never to lie to her again and left the police force to keep their lives out of danger, but this time he clearly hid the truth from her again. At the infirmary, Sandoval asks Maka to help sew his daughter's fairy costume. In return, he gives her cotton underwear and ointment, as she is allergic to the polyester panties provided by the prison. However, the creep forces her to change right in his office. Paloma goes to Zulema's cell to inform her that an investigation into Yolanda's death has been opened. She reassures Zulema that she won't reveal her secret. Maka overhears their conversation and also goes to speak with Zulema. Zulema threatens to harm Maka's parents if she testifies against her. Furious, Maka tells her she has already told Miranda everything she knows. Panicked, Maka tries to call her father to warn him about the danger Zulema poses to their family. However, she struggles to find a phone since the common phone requires booking at least a day in advance. Desperate, she attempts to buy a cell phone from Annabelle, but Annabelle tricks her into paying €400 for the phone, only to tell her she still can't have it because she owes €2,600 for the drug she lost. Maka then rushes back to the common phone booth and pays the last €100 she has to an inmate to get an earlier turn. Unfortunately, when she finally gets through, her father is busy and doesn't answer. Noticing that Antonio has his phone in his pocket, Maka quickly hugs him and steals it. She then runs to a bathroom stall to make an urgent call to warn her father, Leopoldo. Meanwhile, Leopoldo has his own plans in motion. He tracks down Simone and starts a conversation with him. Finally, he answers Maka's call. In a panic, she tells him he is in danger, but Leopoldo calmly asks her to call Simone instead. When Simone is distracted, Leopoldo pulls a gun on him and demands €1 million for Maka's bail. At that moment, Simone's wife and children approach, so Leopoldo quickly hides the gun and walks away. Meanwhile, Hanbal, Zulema's boyfriend, arrives at a parking lot to carry out a hit on Zulema's orders. Shockingly, the person he kills is Paloma. Fabio and the prison guards struggle to cope with Paloma's death. Leopoldo visits Maka in prison and tells her that Simone disappeared right after their encounter in the parking lot. Maka shares what she knows about Yolanda and the 9 million hidden somewhere, revealing that she has found the missing SIM card. However, when she returns to the greenhouse and digs through her potted plant, the SIM card is gone. Zulema is currently in solitary confinement but will be released soon, which poses a serious threat to Maka. Meanwhile, Antonio is still searching for his missing phone and calls it using Fabio's phone. Rizos helps Maka by answering the call and pretending to be someone who found the phone on a bus. Maka wants to check the CCTV footage of the greenhouse to find out who took Yolanda's SIM card. She asks Annabelle and Soledad for help, lying that she lost her phone there. Annabelle tells Maka that to get access to the footage, she would have to sleep with the warden multiple times. She then insults Maka for not paying for the drugs she lost. Meanwhile, Maka's family is desperate, believing there is no way to get her out of prison. Zulema receives a phone in her solitary cell. And it turns out that Hanbal is watching Maka's family. That night, Maka is woken up by a threatening message from Zulema's people. Realizing she must find the SIM card to secure her freedom, she searches through Soledad's belongings. Soledad catches her in the act, and they sneak out to talk. Sol reveals that she has the SIM card and forces Maka to choose, get rid of it or keep it. When Sol drops it into the toilet, Maka quickly retrieves it, insisting she needs it to save herself and her family. Disappointed, Sol warns her that she is playing a dangerous game by holding onto it. The next day, Zulema is transferred from solitary confinement to the high-security prison regime, meaning she must still stay away from other inmates. Maka hides in a bathroom stall to insert the SIM card into Antonio's phone. She forgets to turn off the sound, causing a noise that alerts the guards and Annabelle, who is eavesdropping in a nearby stall. Panicked, Maka hides the SIM card in the hem of her pants and throw the phone in a trash bin before stepping out to take a shower. However, her clothes with SIM card are immediately stolen by someone. She retrieves the phone from the trash bin and heads back to her cell, only to find Saray leading the inmates and chanting rat at her. Maka talks to Rizos about her problems and how Annabelle is making things difficult for her. Rizos helps by using Antonio's phone to provide call services for the inmates, somehow making over €500. She gives the money to Maka to pay off her debt to Annabelle. Meanwhile, Antonio goes to the meeting point to retrieve his phone. After waiting for an hour, he uses a public phone booth to call it. Rizos makes up a story, pretending to be the person who found his phone, and says she can't meet him as planned because her son is in the hospital. Maka is under 24-hour surveillance by a warden to ensure her safety now that Zulema is out. In the greenhouse, an inmate tells Maka that Annabelle was the one who stole her clothes. She runs to confront Annabelle, but as she crosses the yard, Zulema threatens her, and Saray suddenly throws a basketball at her face, knocking her unconscious. When Maka wakes up, she asks Sandoval to discharge her, but he refuses. Remembering Sol's warning that Sandoval is a pervert, she seduces him and gets released. Meanwhile, in the cafeteria, Miranda and Fabio mourn the devastating impact of Paloma's death on her family. Fabio is certain that Zulema ordered her murder. Furious at her smug expression, he shoves her to the ground in anger. Antonio warns Fabio that they have no idea what Zulema is capable of and that their families could be in danger. Later, Maka confronts Annabelle in the bathroom. Annabelle tells her that she already sold her SIM card to Saray. When Maka asks Saray for the SIM card, Saray refuses and warns that she will ruin Maka's life. Rizzo sleeps with Sandoval and asks him for a favor, to be transferred to Maka's cell, taking Yolanda's vacant spot. Maka is happy to have Rizos with her but is upset that Rizos disrespected herself to get that favor from Sandoval. Meanwhile, Miranda and Sandoval try to determine who the father of Tyr's baby is. Antonio reports to them about Fabio's condition. He is deeply affected by Paloma's death and might get himself into trouble. Fabio visits his old partner Castillo and asks him to speed up the investigation so they can transfer Zulema to another prison. Antonio suggests the same to Miranda, but she tells him that Zulema has already been through 11 institutions and only a judge can decide to move her. That night, Maka bonds with Rizos, realizing there is more depth to her than just her cheerful outer. Maka confides in Rizos about finding Yolanda's SIM card and then losing it. Fabio isn't the only one struggling. Miranda is also suffering as her husband has been ghosting her for days after she asked for a divorce. The next day, Tyr once again asks Maka to pee in a cup for her. When Maka refuses, Tyr reveals that her test results came back as pregnant. Just then, Leopoldo and Maka's brother, Roman, visit her with a new lawyer. They have remortgaged their house, and Roman has used the savings he intended for his wedding to hire this lawyer. Moved by her family's sacrifice, Maka decides not to tell them about her pregnancy. She then seeks out Saray and asks for the SIM card again. Saray quickly overpowers Maka, pinning her against the wall and strangling her with a towel. In desperation, Maka blurts out that she will retract her statement against Zulema. As a result, Zulema is swiftly removed from the dangerous inmate category, and Maka gets the SIM card back. Maka unlocks the account, knowing that Yolanda's favorite number is 8. She finds pictures of a location in the woods and quickly sends them to her dad. He warns her to destroy the SIM card as soon as possible. Saray's other condition is that Maka must stay away from Rizos. At the cafeteria, Maka tells Rizos to stay away from her and leave their cell, and she gives her Antonio's phone as a gift. Furious, Rizos punches her and screams out loud that Maka has Yolanda's SIM card. Meanwhile, Roman is already on his way to dig up the money, but Hanbal suddenly attacks him, takes his phone, and locks him in the trunk of the car. Zulema makes Maka an offer. They split the money. Zulema takes 8 million, while Maka gets 1 million for her bail. In return, Zulema will protect her while she remains in prison. Meanwhile, Hanbal drives to an empty lot and receives a call from Zulema. They still don't have the exact location of the money. Roman, locked in the trunk, screams so loudly that Hanbal opens it to silence him. As he opens the trunk, Roman uses the shovel to strike Hanbal. Hanbal falls and Roman takes the moment to run away. Miranda suspects that Tyr is offering favors to prison staff in exchange for drugs, so she interrogates her about the father of her baby. Panicked, Tyr randomly claims that it's Antonio, with his phone having been found with Rizzo's. Fabio is suspended from duty. Maka informs Sandoval that she's pregnant and that it happened before she was imprisoned. She asks for an abortion pill, but he refuses unless she agrees to give him sexual favors in return. She doesn't agree and runs out of his office. Meanwhile, Fabio learns about Antonio's struggles and promises to help clear his name. Desperate, Maka calls her dad, but Roman happens to pick up instead. She finally tells him the truth about how terrible prison is and that she's pregnant with Simone's child. Roman reassures his sister, reminding her that anyone who messes with one of them messes with all of them.